Hello, everybody. You're all quite tired, I'm sure. I'm going to try and entertain you with some nonsense about, well, AWS and what I get up to with it. So yes, I represent the AWS user group in Singapore, and I must thank AWS for sponsoring me to come out here and speak. It's fantastic to be here in Korea. But Singapore is my new home, and it's fantastic there. It's the best country in the world, I think you'll find. We have gigabit internet. We have a whole mixed mash of cultures. There's good Korean food. Not as good as Korea, but pretty good. Good Japanese food. And yeah, this is what it looks like. Interestingly, I always remember when I first was in Korea 10 years ago, that, you know, all these Samsung or these LG buildings, there's a similar thing in Singapore. These HDB buildings, they all look quite similar. They're all quite uniform. So I think Koreans who ever go to Singapore will feel at home, I hope. And yeah, I used to live here in Korea next to Nambu bus terminal. My first job was teaching kids. But luckily I got a proper job, as you can see, working on a computer, a proper job. Working with computers, I'll get onto that. But I don't know what this dish is called. Any Korean can tell me what this dish is called? It's like a noodle with seafood, and it's like a hot pot. It's amazing, I love it. I hope to have it tonight. If anyone's listening, please tell me where to go. But yeah, Korea, yeah, this is back in 2006, so more than 10 years ago is when I used to live in Korea. And the topic I wanted to share with you guys today was a technical one, because I think I'm putting myself out there, but I think AWS has changed the game in a number of ways, but recently the whole serverless thing is saving my employers and my customers a lot of, well, saving me from saving me money, serving them, if you know what I mean. I think serverless is pretty amazing. Also, the Golang language is pretty amazing. Who's familiar with Golang? Anyway, you don't have to worry about Golang here. But I'm just going to show you just demonstrate the, well, what my discoveries with you here. And yeah, the slides are online somewhere, and there's a more technical talk in that link. So yeah, what I want to talk about is a simpler serverless, because if you've ever used Lambda, it's painful, I think. You know, it's very easy to get like 20 million of them. It's very difficult to orchestrate them. Not so much like deploy them, but more like get them communicating together in perfect harmony. But the benefits of using Lambda are pretty amazing. You get that sort of, on-demand scaling. And the things that Lambda give you is kind of what every application you use, you want to get out of it too. So, yeah, this is the problem. And let's be honest, AWS is pretty damn complex. Who of you guys have been certified? Anyone certified here? It's a pain. It's a total pain. There's so much stuff to know. It's like I'm going up for recertification. I'm thinking like, this is too much. And like when I try to explain people AWS, I don't even know where to begin anymore. Maybe the basic stuff with like S3, but AWS as a platform, I feel, is pretty complex, especially if you've delved into nitty-gritty parts like CloudFormation and ECS and things like that. So getting up to speed with AWS can take a lot of time and expertise. And yeah, this is my own experience. I call it the DevOps evolution. So, well, can I get this out so I can walk around like a lunatic? Hello. So I guess everyone started with number one. Number one is like when you just install an operating system on an EC2 instance and you just do everything manually. If you're kind of smart, maybe you do stuff with user data. But I mean, we've all been there, number one, right? Come on. Yeah, got 2 hands, counting for 1 person. The second step, where I see a lot of people at, is using some sort of, or what do you call it now? Like Puppet, Ansible, Chef automation. In AWS parlance, that's called OpsWorks. Well, I think it's Chef. And that way you can orchestrate, you can reproduce your setup, and that's what I call stage 2. I think stage 3 is something like Heroku or Code Deploy. To be honest, I haven't used Code Deploy. Is it like Heroku? It's a little bit like you Git push, and it's a little bit more, but it's not quite what Docker is. Docker gives you those perfect sort of images, the Docker file where you can compile up an image and deploy that. Who's using Docker? Is it the same hand? A couple of hands. But I'm pretty frustrated with Docker. Networking Docker, scaling Docker, not easy problems. And anyone who's used AWS ECS to do a serious production workload, I'm working with at video scale, I guess. Lots of video people consuming Bollywood content. And yes, it's scary. You see, I've lost a lot of hair and I'm quite grey. I'm only 23. No, that's a joke. But serverless, oh my God. When you're running that stuff, when you're running serverless, it's you don't have to worry about all this operation stuff. You know, someone was talking about an operations VP. Fire that person. With Lambda, you don't need any of that stuff. You just deploy. And the brilliant thing about if you do it really well is that you don't even have to worry. Like for example, with Amazon ECS, doing red-green deployments or blue-green or whatever they call it, basically deploying without losing a single request. It's non-trivial to do it right. And with serverless, you don't even have to a baby could do it. My child could do it. He just presses, SLS deploy or something like this, and you basically get a perfect deployment and able to scale to loads of people. But what's wrong with Amazon Lambda? I mean, I have complaints about it, like everything. Well, as mentioned before in the previous talks, serverless framework takes care of some things. But if you're working by hand with, how much time do I have? If you're working by hand with AWS Lambda, you'll come into some painful aspects. Who loves CloudFormation here? You're insane. You're lying. CloudFormation, even a trivial CloudFormation setup is a nightmare. I'm still to this day, I've yet to meet someone who's orchestrated a simple CloudFront with CloudFormation. You're insane. You must have a lot of minions or something. And okay, let's pretend that you figured it out. I still find it very, very slow, and you only get used to CloudFormation with a ton of experience with it. These weird states that you can get into, like rollback, delete, and da 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 da. You don't actually figure out how to use it unless you've actually burnt your fingers a few times, which I've done. API gateway is another thing that has given me untold grief. Mapping, the features are there. It's actually probably well designed, but like many AWS products, they may be just too general and too difficult to use. So I'm very frustrated with API gateway. And then the biggest problem I find with Lambda functions, by my own admission, I made this mistake, is that when you're using SNS, what does it stand for? Short, something. Sorry, you know what SNS messages are. They're like little JSON messages that passed around. Using that to coordinate applications is insane. It's terrible. Don't do it. Learn from my mistakes. I'm trying to save you guys time and money here. If you basically instrument your applications using this, I'm going to slap you because I want to instill some sense into you. Don't do it like this. An application, in my opinion, should be basically have an API that's web-based. That's a much better way to do it. Using these things called standards. You know, the reason why HTTP is good is for a number of reasons. But yeah, you can use Postman, for example, to figure it out. But using standards as your way of building of instrumenting your application or working with the application is the right way to do it. Use these things. But the problem is like, how do you get your Lambda application responding to GET and a post and all that sort of stuff without losing your frickin' mind? This is the problem here. We have this sort of problem where the client is speaking to gateway, it goes to SNS, then it goes to your Lambda function. We need a way to make API Gateway SNS just operate like a standard web request response model. And this is where I have discovered the application that does just that. It's called Apex Up. It's basically like, I think of it as like a proxy inside your Lambda function that sort of proxies all that garbage SNS stuff to a standard request response thing, which is compatible with Golang, Node.js, Express. You know, any language that implements a web server does the standard web request response properly. And Apex is this proxy bit that allows you to do it. It's done by this, I dare say, a savant, a genius, named TJ Holloway-Chuck. He developed Express on Node.js, and then he sort of poo-pooed JavaScript and moved to Golang like a boss. I'm a boss. So when you use Up for serverless deployments, you get all the beautiful things that web gives you, like, you know, sanely being able to handle lots of routes. Handling lots of routes in API Gateway, don't do that. Please don't do that. It's a pain. You get local testing. Well, you don't even, you know, you basically just run your Node Express app just as you would. You don't have to, you know, set up some weird local Lambda environment. Oh dear, now I need water. The brilliant thing about Up, compared to serverless, when you do SLS deploy with serverless, it takes a few seconds because it's like messing around with CloudFormation and blah, 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 blah. But with Up, your iterations are reduced to less than 5 seconds. I kid you not. Less than 5 seconds for iterative deployment. This is revolutionary in my opinion. Oh my God, my phone just started upgrading to iOS 11. And finally, yeah, what Apex apps give you also is logging. Like oh, thanks. I really like just standard web logging. You know, get, post. When you don't get that by default with Lambda, and I miss it. But really, the most important thing is the iteration speeds. They're so fast. Like being able to you can put a production service out there in minutes and iterate it. You know, 5 seconds. It's just a crazy powerful platform. Oh God, this is my picture. Poo-pooing Cloud. No more Cloud Foundation nonsense. No more Cloud Foundation. No more API gateway nonsense. This is not even a very complicated API gateway, but when you deploy Apex up, everything is using that sort of like weird proxy plus command. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I don't know how much time I have now because this thing just stopped working. So, and finally, the app project has a great bunch of examples like the serverless framework does, but the cool thing about app, it supports just any language really. The cool thing about serverless is, or the way it's running containers is it's just any binary, any language binary that you can make up with anything, you can run in this environment. And of course, it also allows you to upload static content if you wanted to. But this is the great thing. It's language agnostic. Is that the right term? So I use it personally for Golang. Oh, here's one more slide to say less than 5 second iterations. This is amazing. So basically, as a DevOps solution, yeah, you don't need so much expertise anymore. You know, I have so much experience of using AWS, and now you don't need me. You can just get rid of me. You don't have to pay me anything. You can just use this technology. And all those times that I had burnt my fingers, all those sleepless nights, all that time that AWS technology just terrorized me was for nothing. My life was basically being for nothing. Pretty sad. But, oh well. And it will save you a lot of time. And the most amazing thing I find is that, you know, I deployed the serverless solution for a couple of production services. And I know Amazon has that free tier where you have your first 1 million requests for free or something. But I think it's amazing because, like, we used to get like an M4 large for this playlist generation service, and we've been running this production service and using up for like a month now, and it's like cost us 0. That's pretty amazing to me. Yeah, I think that's all I had to say. I'm here in Korea to answer your questions and for you to get me drunk. So I really like this soju stuff. And likewise, it's great to meet you guys from other parts of Asia. And I know the Japanese delegation visited Singapore last year, and I was like on holiday, unfortunately. But hopefully next time, or whichever user group comes to Singapore, I'll be there to welcome you guys. And yeah, please be in touch. And kamsahamnida. Thanks very much.